Welcome, adventurers, to episode 17 of the Thumbstick Adventurers. I'm Kagros.
IDK!
I'm juicysamples.
Alright, so if you're watching this live on Twitch, thank you for watching, and we do our episodes every week, give or so, every Wednesday at 8. I mean, we usually start late, but usually 8. And if you are not watching this live, then you can find us on our YouTube channel, the Thumbstick Adventurers, where we will post all of our old episodes on. So anyways, today's episode 17, is called Salt Mines and Milk Factories. So we kind of gave a preview of this episode last week, when we went off on a tangent at the end there about what we were all salty about. So we decided to do a salt mine episode where each one of us is going to pick basically one grievance. It could either be something we're salty about, or it could be about a company milking their franchises, or it could be both. So, and then I guess we'll just let each other rant, and then we each pitch in on each other's grievances. Maybe someone will play the devil's advocate for someone's grievance. We'll see. So anyways, I will go first. So my grievance, which has actually been addressed already, which is good, but I think it's I have been salty about this for a very long time. So my favorite game of all time is The World Ends With You, and I don't see a game ever dethroning that. So, and long story short, it's because The World Ends With You, based on the state of my life that I was in, it was a very emotional game for me, and it has a very special place in my heart because of that reason. So, The World Ends With You came out in North America, I think either late 2007 or early 2008. And, when I played that, this game is amazing, and the reason for that is because of the story. And I think all of us have been very vocal on how we prioritize the story. How highly we rank the story whenever we play our games. Because most of us, I think all three of us are primarily single-player games, or we play a lot of single-player games, right?
Yeah, pretty much now.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, give me those narrative-driven, give me those story-driven games, right? So, for that reason, it's a really good story. And, when they released it, I was like, they need to make a sequel to this game. There's no question about it. So, and unfortunately, The World Ends With You, so the sequel for it finally got announced, I think, either at the beginning of this year, or at the end of last year. I think the announcement was at the end of last year. Mm-hmm. So, and that was 12, it's been 12 years in a row. So let me give a quick history lesson, and you'll understand why I felt so salty about this. So give me 1 second as I pull up the Wikipedia page. I want to make sure I get all my dates right. And I didn't blow anything out of proportion here.
So, Kagros, question.
Yeah.
Playing devil's advocate already. You're already getting a sequel right now. But is this due to having salt overload?
Oh yeah, absolutely, dude. Alright, yeah, absolutely. Even right before they announced it, I was like, oh my god, it's gonna be another port. The stupid thing. It's gonna be another. What are they gonna port to Stadia?
But you're getting it.
I know, but it's still it is a very complex history behind this. Alright, so let's get started. So, one important thing, the first point to make is that Tetsuya Nomura was one of the directors for this game, and I think that will factor in very heavily on the progression or how we ended up getting here. So this was released on the Nintendo DS in 2008 in North America. And when was Dream Drop Distance released? Do you remember, IDK? 2011 or 2012 or 2013?
I was gonna say, I think 2012. It was the last year of college for us.
Okay, so the iOS port for this game was released in August 2012, and that was basically the first, kind of the first thing that we got about this game. and then Dream Drop Distance releases in 2012. Let's just say it's 20 around the same time frame. So we're like, all right, they are featuring the World Ends With You characters in Kingdom Hearts, and there's no way that they would feature a dead game in a Kingdom Hearts game, right? They're trying to get us hyped. They're trying to, they're trying to get us hyped for a new game, and it's been about 4 or 5. We just got an iOS port. They're trying to see how people are gonna get reception to that. So we should have a sequel coming up, like maybe in 2 years, right? And you know what we got in 2 years after that? We got an Android port. We got an Android port of this game. Also, like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? And I believe, was it the Android port? So I remember they had a countdown for something. Was it the Android port?
I don't know. I don't follow this game pretty closely.
I think the countdown. What? No, the countdown was for The countdown was the countdown to an announcement to another countdown, I believe.
And what did that countdown down to?
I believe it was the Android port or the anime, one of the two.
No, it has to be the Android port then. So
it was the Android port.
Yeah, it has to be. So they put this countdown on their website, and they're like, big news coming, World Ends With You coming, and then it counts down, and then on the day of the countdown, eventually they announced the Android, and everyone was hyped. All the World Ends With You fans were hyped. They're like, all right, we're getting a sequel. We're finally getting the sequel. Like, it's in 6 years. We're getting it. No, it was an announcement of a port. Like when Blizzard announced Diablo Immortals at BlizzCon. And all the people were really bummed out. I was like, yeah, I felt that 4 years ago. Like, I don't care how salty you guys are. I understand why you guys are salty, but like, nah. So anyways, 4 years pass, and then they announce another port to the Nintendo Switch in 2018. And one thing to note too is that they have also been slowly drip feeding teases of sequels in each of the ports. I think so. At the end of the iOS port, they released. At the end of it, they show a character. They show like a new character, and it's a tease. It's like Roxas being teased at the end of Chain of Memories, and they're like, "Oh, the new character, is she going to be in the sequel?" And then now in the Switch, they announced, was it another day or is it another week? Let me double check here.
I thought it was another day, and it focused on that character.
Yeah, so it's yes. So I think it's another day, but yeah. So they basically released like that new character. They featured her in the Switch port. So that part we're like, oh, okay. I guess that's something, But don't get your hopes up because, yeah. And then they announced an anime in 2019, and then we're like, oh my god. Why are they milking this franchise? Like, haven't you guys done enough? You made 3 ports already. You've made 3 ports. Each one slowly drifting something new, to give to fans. And now you're gonna make an anime? Like, come on, the cow's been milked dry. You're trying to, like, the cow's gone. Like, make a new cow already. Come on. And around the time when the anime was about to start airing, they put a countdown. So let me see, anime adaptation. And so around the anime that was released, they set another countdown. And by that time, we're like, okay, it's probably going to be a countdown for the anime trailer. And then so like I heard about it. I did not even put on my calendar. I had even the PlayStation Presents. I didn't really care too much about that. I had that on my calendar and then we ended up watching it for our last episode. But like this countdown, like Square Enix, they're just gonna. It's just gonna be an anime trailer or something. Like I'm not gonna be debated again. And then the day of the trailer, Tonk actually texts me And she's like, "Oh my god, did you hear the news?" I'm like, "No, sorry. I think it was one of you guys." So it was IDK. IDK texts me. He's like, "Oh my god, did you hear the news?" And I'm like, "What is it? What is it?" And he's like, "You need to watch this." And then he sends. I think he sends all of us the trailer in the group chat. And then I completely lost it. I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" After years of teasing us and throwing us on the wayside, we finally got our game.
I'm gonna try to look it up because I do want to see how it went down.
Yeah. Okay. And so IDK, you played the World Ends of You, right?
Yeah, most of it.
What did you play it on?
I played it on DS.
Okay. And Juicy, have you played it?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I want to.
Okay. So I think there is a pretty long history here, but basically, one of the big things is that Tetsuya Nomura is one of the directors of this game. He was one of the key drivers in this game as well. And Nomura had commitments to FF. Was he on FF13?
Nomura was on. He was on
I wouldn't
10.
be surprised if he was involved.
Oh, he was on 13 Versus.
13 Versus. He was working on 13 Versus.
13 Versus was his baby.
Yeah, and then did he get kicked off of that? He got kicked off of that, right?
13 Versus got ripped from Nomura because he wanted to make it a musical and had a bunch of weird things attached to it. And Square Enix basically got fed up and said, "Nope, get out of here. Go work on. You're gonna get put somewhere else." And then they handed it off to Tabata.
So he worked on 10, and then he was working on 13 Versus.
Yeah.
And then after that, he had to go back to Kingdom Hearts, right? I believe that's the timeline.
After that, he was working on Kingdom Hearts supposedly, but he was also being assigned to FF7 remake.
Yes, that's right.
They announced that, and he was like, "Well, I'm working on this. What?
Yeah.
I'm directing this?"
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, that's right. So basically, Nomura was forced to work on not only Final Fantasy but also Kingdom Hearts, and because he was also forced to work on Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts, basically they stretched it out. Like, I think had he had more bandwidth, I'm pretty sure we would have gotten Kingdom Hearts 3 a lot quicker. And so that's one of the problems with Square Enix is that they basically take all their. I think their talent, their main talent, they don't have. Like, they build everything around their main talent, and Nomura is definitely one of them. He's one of the key drivers, and there are several people on Final Fantasy. And if you look at how Square Enix is structured, how they script they structure their business divisions. I think it's pretty obvious, and you can see basically. I think like half the divisions are focused on Final Fantasy. So, but anyway, so Nomura was. He was forced to work on Final Fantasy, and then he has to take care of Kingdom Hearts. So, for that reason, The World Ends With You doesn't really have a big sponsor in the company. And your cash cow, Square Enix's main cash cow, is Final Fantasy, and then after that, probably Kingdom Hearts. Right? So they want to push these games.
Dragon Quest. I mean, if you're going to divide cash cows, it's got to be your Final Fantasy for the Western regions, and then you have your Dragon Quest to the Eastern region.
Right. Yes.
And then you have Kingdom Hearts kind of going between both of them. And then you have
the
other series.
The other, and then everything else. And then...
Which the World Ends With You is at the top of the crop, man. There's all these other franchises that they've basically ignored and left to die. But they're at the surface. They're clinging to the life raft. Please, don't forget about us, please. And finally, now they're paying attention to it.
It's about damn time, and I think Juicy knows all about how good or how bad Kingdom Hearts fans have their balls fondled every couple of years.
For you to bring up Nomura just makes it feel that not only is Square Enix the milk factory, but Nomura himself is being milked. And I feel kind of bad for him. I feel bad for him because, he can only think about so many games.
Yeah.
So, I can understand why Tui is neglected as it is. But you know, happy ending is that it gets its own game. I'm very cautious about the new game. I really hope it's good, but it's I want to see more of it.
It's my second pick in the fantasy league. I hope it comes out this year, please. Don't delay it, please.
Surprised it's your second and not your first.
I forgot. I forgot. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. IDK had it, was about to draft. He had it ready as a hate draft for me. He was gonna hate draft the hell out of it if I hate drafted his game.
I had Kagros on a leash. If he drafted Ratchet and Clank in Rift Apart, I had the go button. I was going to take that World Ends With You Neo, man.
I'm surprised you didn't just take it anyway. I'm surprised you just didn't take it anyway.
No, I made the crazy play. I took Final Fantasy 16. I took Final Fantasy 16. I should have taken Guilty Gear. I made a horrible mistake. Whatever.
Yeah, so anyways, the TLDR of it is that, you know, World Ends With You has been left on the wayside from Square Enix because basically Square Enix actually doesn't have, you know, they center their main talent around their more successful franchises, and I honestly had hoped that, you know, they would have given it to someone who was just as good, or maybe even if they were, you know, someone just as good but maybe hasn't been given a chance, you know, like, oh, like they have an up and comer, like, oh, you know, and like, oh, here's the first game, and they have a really brilliant idea for it, and then they would have given them a chance and let them be the director for that one. I think they would have gone it, because I really think that they could turn this into really a big franchise, because the Reapers game is not really. You can have just multiple Reapers, like Danganronpa, right? You could have just different games, different characters. They don't have to connect. They don't have to connect to each other if you don't want them to.
You can even pull a feather out of Dragon Quest hat. How many Dragon Quests are there? There's like 11, 12, and the 12 is the next one. Yeah, you get a whole bunch of World Ends With You games.
I mean,
all separate entities.
The problem is that World Ends With You is definitely a story-driven game rather than gameplay. I would say the gameplay isn't as good. I think Dragon Quest is more focused on gameplay, and I think when you have games that are more focused on gameplay, it's a lot easier to basically create new games. I can also argue that Final Fantasy is also not just gameplay, but Final Fantasy also has a pretty good story, and they crank out story.
It's all about like the themes. So like the Dragon Quest theme is what the story is.
Right, but Dragon Quest has always been like fantasy, magic, dragons,
that's true.
warriors.
Yes.
And like World Ends With You has always been reapers, kids in the city, and you know, the game. You just take that same framework and make multiple games, but you change the characters, the locations, whatever, and you don't have to tie them together if you don't want to. Now, World Ends With You could be tied together more easier than Dragon Quest can, because Dragon Quest kind of wonky, but there are connections there. Anyways, are you ready for my rebuttal?
Oh yeah, come at me, bro.
It's not actually really a rebuttal. I'm actually more of a support view, but I do think what caused Tweenie to go submerge for so long actually is the thing we've been talking about the entire time. Nomura himself. I think he pulled an executive move and said, no one can touch this series unless it's me. No one. So he still had bosses who can jerk him around.
Rebuttal.
Objection, huh?
Is Nomura touching the sequel?
I believe.
I don't think he is.
I thought he was a producer.
I'm pretty sure he is. He's
producers nowadays. I think for him, he is a brand. So like you can say that he's like the janitor of the game, you know, and like people's like, yeah, Nomura's.
Let me see. Game.
I mean, Final Fantasy VII Remake 2. Nomura is no longer the director; he's a producer. They have Kitase doing the directing now. But the thing is, for Final Fantasy VII Remake 1, he was called the director, but it was mostly Kitase. Can't remember to say his name. He was mainly the guy leading the charge. Like Nomura was just there for as a face.
So yeah, I do want to get the full details on this, but just a quick Google search shows that he did the character. At least he did the character Divine, so he is involved in the game.
He's involved.
He is definitely involved. He has to be involved.
I could make an argument that Square Enix may have thought to bring it back, but he told them no. He wanted to be in charge of it and wanted to do it, and since it was technically his baby project, they let him because he has so much influence. But when he decided it was finally time to bring it back, they're like, "Yo, we need to test and see if the water's like. We're gonna put out some like kind of crummy ports, and if people buy them." And they still want it, and then we'll put an anime out, and if they still want it, then we'll do a sequel. Which is what we're getting.
Yeah, so Nomura did the character designs. He was actually the artist. So, sorry, I misspoke. So Nomura is a producer, and he's also the main character artist. He is not actually one of the directors of the game. I'm not sure if any of the original directors are still in Square Enix. I'm not sure about that. But one thing about the sequel is that they did bring back the composer. The original composer for The World Ends With You, which is actually really, really big. The composer doesn't actually work at Square Enix anymore. It's not a full-time employee of Square Enix anymore. So they did bring him back just to work on The World Ends With You. So the production value is definitely there. I do think they want to keep it reminiscent of the first one, but it'll be interesting to see because I don't think that trying to recreate the first World Ends With You would be a good idea. They have to modernize everything to fit the themes of the new society. Society has changed a lot in the past 12 years, and I think if they have to modernize it, otherwise it won't be the same.
Yeah, it's true.
So basically, TLDR, the World Ends With You, been left on the wayside, been milked for who knows how long, but we finally got it, and it's been a long time, so at least this story has a happy ending. I'm not salty about it anymore. I just await the new game. So let's move to IDK's grievance.
Oh, this is gonna be lightning fast. You ready? Nintendo bad, be good.
You good, huh? I don't believe that.
No. Let me put it this way. My grievance is Nintendo doesn't know what to do with their sci-fi franchises. I'm talking your Star Fox, I'm talking your F-Zero, I'm talking your Metroid, I'm talking your Pikmin. Okay, they don't know what the hell to do with these franchises. And I put all the blame on one guy, Shigeru Miyamoto.
Oof.
Fuck you. Mario. If a game doesn't have Mario in it, you cock block it and wall it and leave it to die.
Is he the gatekeeper?
He is the gatekeeper, in my opinion. That's what we've heard from multiple developers working at Nintendo and for like second parties like Intelligent Systems. He's basically the guy that forced Paper Mario to no longer be Paper Mario. They wanted to make a sequel to Thousand Year Door similar to Thousand Year Door and brought it before Miyamoto, and he said, no, it has to be different. That's not going to fly here. And that's what forced us to get Super Paper Mario, which was an okay game with a great story, but kind of mediocre gameplay. And then led to the other bad sequels, in my opinion. And finally come back with the latest Paper Mario Origami King, which is still kind of bad. Anyways, my main focus is on Star Fox, Metroid, F-Zero, Pikmin, and to an extent the other big sort of tentpole franchises Nintendo has, where they don't make any sequels for years. Like, when's the last time Nintendo actually made a Metroid game themselves? Not a third party like Retro Studios before they bought them.
Was it GameCube? GameCube, right?
It might have been either... No, the GameCube was Retro. I think it might have been the Game Boy Advance with Metroid Fusion.
Wasn't there a Metroid game for the GameCube?
Yeah, Prime, but
There's
didn't
Prime.
develop it.
Yeah, it was Retro Studios, the third party.
Oh, I see. Oh, right.
Nintendo
Yeah.
bought them like 2 years ago. They brought in...
I think the Game Boy Advance games are also done by a separate studio.
Let me see.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Like, the last time an actual Nintendo-made Metroid game would have been probably Metroid 2. Or Samus Returns, something like that.
Metroid Fusion. It was the developers Nintendo R&D 1. Metroid Fusion.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's in 2002.
Yeah, 2002.
Hold on. There's another one. Metroid Zero Mission, also Nintendo R&D 1. This was in 2004.
That's a remake.
2004.
Is that a remake? Sorry, yeah, it is a remake. It is a remake. Yes, you're right.
17 years for Nintendo to release a game, and they're relying on third-party studios to make it. Same with, F-Zero. basically gets nothing.
Dude, what was the last F-Zero game? GameCube, right? Like,
Yeah. And one of the big reasons is they claim that they don't have any inspiration to make any games in that series. They can't think of anything to do. Which seems absolutely... I'm going to call bullshit on that. I think it's bullshit. I just think they just don't want to deal with it because they have Mario Kart. They have their Mario Kart Racer, which has been far more popular than F-Zero was when they both came out within like a year or two. And they've told F-Zero to die. Even though they definitely could make F-Zero a more sort of finesse racer. Like a Gran Turismo type.
F-Zero could be the Mario Kart for adults.
Yeah, it could be a technical racer. Like, it could have require a lot of skill, and could have like building your own car and modifying it and stuff. Things they wouldn't put into Mario Kart necessarily, you know. But
That's
they don't.
what you need to do. They need to make F-Zero like in a cyberpunk setting, rated M, where everyone's swearing and you kill racers. You slam them, you like make their car break or their ship, whatever. So
yeah. So
like but my main fault is Nintendo having these great franchises, especially in the sci-fi. I mean, I also include Donkey Kong in this because when's the last time Nintendo made an actual Donkey Kong game? Again, it's been a long time.
It's because Rare. It's because they sold or Rare. They you know what happened with Rare, right?
They buy Rare.
Yeah.
They bought Rare. They didn't. So, and we're talking like Donkey Kong Jr. I think is like the last time Nintendo made a Donkey Kong game proper. Or no, Donkey Kong Jungle Beats. You know, the bongo game. Like they sit on their hands with these franchises that they could easily renovate and bring back to life, but they don't. Or when they do, they fuck it up. Like Star Fox Zero. Why? Why was that the next Star Fox game we got after years of waiting? Why would you deprive us of a decent Star Fox game and give us such crappy controls on a dead console? Like, and it was Miyamoto's thing. Miyamoto's the one that took care of that. He okayed that because he thought cool gameplay was better than actually good game. So bullshit.
I feel like his philosophy is that your gameplay has to be innovative, but that doesn't equate to being good.
It doesn't equate to being fun. No one thought Star Fox Zero was fun. And the fact that Star Fox has such a rich universe to pull from, because it hasn't really been explored, and they keep going back to the same old, tired Star Fox 64 storyline. You know? Just the fact they took Rare's game, Dinosaur Planet, and then slapped Star Fox in there because the main character looked like Fox, because he was a fox.
Oh, yeah.
Should speak volume to what they think about the series. Like, it is so scummy. It was probably one of the main reasons why Rare decided to go with Microsoft. Because Nintendo just straight up dicked them over on a game that could have been a series. Which, side note, someone found a late in development ROM.
Yeah, this is pretty recent.
Yep. Yeah, and so it's the 64 version of it, and people are playing through it. It's pretty cool. Take a look at it. That's the game we could have gotten if Nintendo hadn't been like, "You have a fox in your game who's bipedal? Must be Star Fox." Christ, and that's on Miyamoto's back too, because he's the one that did it. So that's my thought. Miyamoto bad. Needs to be gone.
I'm very surprised, IDK. I honestly thought your grievance was going to be with Pokemon. So I'm a little surprised that you decided to go for this one. You chose this as your grievance.
No, this hurts me a lot worse. You know why? Because while I love Pokemon, it wasn't my favorite series growing up. Star Fox was the first N64 game I got. I played Donkey Kong Country. No, Donkey Kong 64 was the first another N64 game I played with Donkey Kong. F-Zero, I think it's a cool series. I just want to see it explored more. So the fact that it's been lying dormant for so long really pisses me off. And then Metroid, my baby, my girl. Why? Why do you abuse us so? Why do you torment us like this? Such a cool character. I know she doesn't sell, either in Japan or America, but it doesn't give you a reason to just let her sit there and die in mediocrity. And the fact that all these decisions, all these game series that are like struggling and need help, they can all be traced back to Miyamoto and his sort of like top of the pile ruling of them and telling developers what they can and can't do for certain game franchises really puts him as public enemy number 1. Like, I want to see that man gone.
Oh man, that's a pretty high demand there, Mr. IDK. One thing I do want to point out is that, especially at Nintendo, like basically when you create a franchise, they let you keep that franchise basically for lifetime. Like you see like Miyamoto, Mario, he's been doing it for like 30, 40 years. Is it 40 years, right? And they even with the spin-offs too, right? He has a lot of control over them. And then like with Pokemon, isn't there like a guy who's the guy for Pokemon?
The head president,
The creator of Pokemon?
Junichi Tsunada or something like that.
Junichi Masuda. He's been running the show for a long time as well, right? And like if you look at Smash, right? Smash is actually pretty recent when you can, it's Sakurai, right? And he's been running the show for an entire franchise. Basically, once you get a hit, you control the franchise for its lifetime, right? And I feel like with those games that you mentioned, the problem is there hasn't been like one main guy that and
I will admit that for most of the games I mentioned, the developers or creators no longer work at Nintendo or no longer around.
Yes.
Or just simply not creating games. I think the developer for Metroid is still there. I think.
Yeah.
But the last time he was given a game was the atrocious Metroid for Wii.
Yeah, so I think this is just a common theme in Japanese companies, is that if you make a franchise, you keep it and they'll let you run the show, and they don't actually give it away. And once that person leaves, then it's gone. Like Mega Man, right? Like what happened with Mega Man, right? Like
well, I mean, Mega Man kind of was like. Yeah, the guy left, but they also oversaturated Mega Man to the point where like no one really wanted to buy games anymore with Mega Man.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So basically, once you lose your lead advocates, then they basically let the series, they sunset, and unless it's a huge cash cow. I think a common trend that I see is that they do sunset it rather than trying to give it to someone else to develop, like in American companies. I like to say that. Like I'm pretty sure if Shoji Meguro left Atlas, do you think they would make another Persona game?
I would riot.
Do you think they would make another Persona game?
But isn't he moving off the Persona series? So we're gonna go on this tangent. Like he's working on the new fantasy IP or whatever.
Wait.
He's not directing the next Persona game.
Oh, no.
Wait. Hold up.
I'm pretty sure he said he's tired of doing Persona games and he's moving on to something else.
You can't be tired.
But he's still at Atlas though. So he can still keep an eye on it. It's not like he's gone.
No. Hold on. This is news to me. IDK, why you gotta do this? Give me 1 second. Let me pull up. So actually, okay, so Shoji Meguro is carrying Persona, but the director for Persona 4 and Persona 5 is the same person. I believe he's probably the director for Persona 3 as well. He's also the director for Persona 3. So Katsura Hashino is the guy running the show. So as long as that guy doesn't leave, we still have Persona. Don't worry, guys. We're good.
No, I'm talking about the music.
The music is the heart of the game, right?
Yes. Wait, so is he not is he not a part of 6?
Hold up. I don't see anything on his Wikipedia page about him getting moved off Persona.
IDK, can you stop spreading this fake news?
I heard he was focusing on their new IP, their new fantasy IP, whatever it's called. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he can do double duty and handle some Persona stuff.
All right, you sent us that article. You sent us that article after this podcast. I don't want to be debated by you. I need proof. I need proof.
A while ago, but you do bring up a good point about the developers, because I'm pretty sure I keep hearing this repeated over and over. I haven't verified it myself, but I think Star Fox was made by 2 British guys who worked at Nintendo back in like the 90s. Like 2 British developers who were working at Nintendo in Japan, like locked in a store closet or whatever. Like they were treated horribly, and they came up with Star Fox, and then they left. So you do also have Miyamoto sort of like sliding against games or things he didn't develop, like Waluigi. He hates Waluigi. This is kind of confirmed because he didn't make the character. He didn't design it for Mario. Camelot did. So that's why Waluigi hasn't gotten anything, despite being such a underdog / kinda popular character. I mean, I'm pretty sure he doesn't even like Wario. Like, Wario has barely gotten any games, even though they're characters that definitely could carry a game by themselves. I guess Wario's gotten WarioWare games, like weird stuff, but like there's no 3D adventure games featuring Wario or Waluigi. They're just sort of there for sports games and for mini games. That's it.
So, IDK, I do want to point out that you did mention Pikmin, right? So
Pikmin is the exception to this whole rule because Pikmin is the brainchild of Miyamoto. And he did claim Pikmin would be the new Mario, and it totally failed in his face.
Huh, really?
So,
yes, yeah, because so Miyamoto was a producer, but by the time it was Pikmin 3, he's no longer. So he was producer for 1 and 2, but not for number 3. I do want to point out that the director, I think the director is also pretty important too, because the director is the one that actually, they oversee the process of creation of the game. It's Shigefumi Hino, and that guy still works at Nintendo, but it looks like that he's been moved off onto other projects. So he was involved in Super Mario Maker 1 and 2, and he's actually involved in Smash Ultimate. So it also just could be resources. But like I said, when you make a franchise, you're basically playing the advocate, and if there's no advocate, then they're gonna let it die. I'm just speculating. That's what it seems like to me.
No, it makes sense because like Pikmin was born out of the. So apparently Miyamoto. This is gonna go in a little tangent territory. I'll try to wrap it up quickly. Miyamoto wanted to make Super Mario 64 2, and they actually were developing the game. And one of the things he wanted to work on was something called the 100 Mario concept, which he ended up making. It was like a E3 concept level where like it's a giant platform with a bunch of Marios on it, and they all can interact and sort of react with the player and what they're doing. And that ended up being the backbone that made Pikmin. They're like, oh, what can we do with this concept of like 100 Marios? Well, we'll make them like 100 of these little creatures. And you can control them and throw them and do stuff with them. So, and he was quoted as saying that Pikmin would be the next Mario. Like, Pikmin was going to be the face of Nintendo one day. Which, it didn't happen, so it made him look pretty bad.
Yeah, but I do agree with you, though, that because he had a hand in Pikmin at the beginning, he also probably has a lot of control over the future of it and whether or not more games are made. So I do agree with you. He probably had a hand in it as well.
But to conclude this, my salt is pointed at Miyamoto because he is the guy that says yay or nay on games. And the fact that some franchises I like are basically relegated to never getting a game or getting a game once in like 20 years because someone really pushes him for it is really annoying. It's really annoying. And it's really tiring to see the same franchises rewarded over and over just because. Like they don't take any risks, even though they could.
Yeah, maybe he needs to retire soon. for the sake of Nintendo.
We'll
for
see.
the sake of new developers just rising up and being able to take advantage of properties that have been lying dormant.
I mean, he still cranks out amazing games, right? I mean, like Super. What was it? The Mario games are still really good. The Mario games are still really good, right? Like if you look at the most recent one, right?
In a corner with his Mario games, just get him off the whole. He's the highest totem pole in the land, and everyone has to meet his demands. Let him do his own thing. Get him off the whole organizing everyone else bandwagon.
All right.
Okay.
So let's and then finally let's bring it home with Juicy.
So you two talk about salt mines and being salty over games that, don't get released. As for now, but wouldn't it be worse when you're waiting for a game for 8 years and it finally comes out and all you taste is salt? Isn't that a worse feeling than to just be salty about a game that can potentially never come out?
I mean, Kingdom Hearts 3, right? Are we on Kingdom Hearts 3 here?
I buy sweet milk from the store and I take it home and I open it and I pour it and it's just salty milk. Is that what you're saying? It's terrible. It's awful. It ruins my day.
And you've been waiting for this milk for more than 5, 6, 7, 8 years.
It's like the first. That's Cyberpunk, right? It's like Cyberpunk, right? Like all those guys that got their hopes crushed.
You got it. That's the saltiness that I don't share as much salt as everyone else does, but I was actually looking forward to that game only because I was really excited to have you two play with me and potentially buy the game for me to play as well. But it didn't work out. Like, the game busted. Like, you can't play it on your potato console. When it seemed like, everyone assumed that you could play this game under all the consoles you have, even your refrigerator, your toaster oven. But it just didn't work. It didn't work on anything. And,
No. Counterpoint. It worked amazingly on the Stadia. Amazingly.
For the two people who actually play Stadia, I guess congrats for you. But, I'm just kidding here. Like, if you had a really good PC, of course you can play it. But that's besides the point. Like, the point is, like, I think people were beginning to develop their salty glands as they're waiting for this game to come out. And once the game finally comes out after many delays, they're just left with a salt mine in their mouth. And I just feel like I had to bring that up because that's like the most recent thing that happened to gamers. The one thing you said about like waiting for TUI, I think it can be said for a lot of games that gamers are still waiting for the next sequel to come out. I think the most notorious one is Half-Life. Where people are waiting like 20 years or something for that game to have the episode 3, which people know is not going to come out, but people still have hope, and they're still holding on to the salt. Yeah, that's it for me.
Really? You sure you don't want to talk about milk factories? Alright, fine. How about this? I'm gonna throw you a bone here. Let's talk about milk factories.
Milk factories.
I want to know what you think about the direction of the Final Fantasy series, because I feel like there are a lot of people who are. Tonk is trolling in the chat now. I feel like a lot of people have been waiting for Final Fantasy games, certain Final Fantasy games, and they just keep making spin-offs, and basically they keep milking the franchise. They make we're going to announce a new game. And then it's like a spin-off. Like I understand. Like I want to say like remake, but let's not even get into remakes. I think FF, they make a lot of spin-offs. Maybe games you don't really want. I'm not really invested in the Final Fantasy series because I never played it growing up, because they didn't make their games on the like Game Boy, or I played mainly Nintendo, and I had the Game Boy Advance, the DS, and there's no Final Fantasy. The only Final Fantasy games on those are the spin-offs. So I never actually played a main game until Final Fantasy 3 was released on the DS. And God, that game was terrible, by the way. There's no story. I did beat it though.
So what you're asking, I would agree with you if we were put in our shoes 5 years ago. I think Final Fantasy was in a really bad state where they always made a lot of spin-offs.
Yeah.
But right now they got remake. They're on the highest of the highs. They're launching that rocket ship. They're in the atmosphere right now, and they're about to break the stratosphere and go to the moon. And I think people are very optimistic about their trajectory. I think this DLC for Yuffie is somewhat of a sign of a good faith, and then you also have a pretty early preview of Final Fantasy 16, which is slated to be at least released by the end of this year, if not next year. So people are quite optimistic with their timeline, and it seems like this all changed once they've abandoned their own in-game engine for Unreal.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I think we finally got to see Kingdom Hearts 3 realized,
Mm-hmm.
because they switched engines. But I think, to your point, like throwing me a bone, instead of talking about Final Fantasy, I'd rather talk about a series that we're all very knowledgeable about, which is Kingdom Hearts. And talking about milk factories, that's one of the biggest milk corporations in this world. Yeah, any thoughts?
So I'm gonna have the counterpoint here. I actually think a lot of their games are relevant in the series because of how they get the story. There are certain games that are definitely milk factories. Like, and let's also ignore the collections, right? Like all the collections. I do think that those are definitely made to get money. You know, basically make customers pay for a game twice. But I think a lot of companies started making all of like these, get this collection of our old games or stuff like that. So that one. That's free milk. That's free milk. Okay, there's no need to discuss those. That's already milking. I think whenever you make a collection, that's a milk factory automatically, right? Especially like Kingdom Hearts does it. They add a little extra into the collections, right? So let's not even talk about those. Let's just talk about like the individual games. So I think in individual games there actually is not a lot of milk. Like, they've been teasing Kingdom Hearts 3, but at this point, Kingdom Hearts 3 isn't actually Kingdom Hearts 3. I think that if you make that distinction, then, you're really arguing more about the syntax. I honestly think that Kingdom Hearts 3 isn't actually Kingdom Hearts 3. It's like Kingdom Hearts, like, 8 or 9 at this point, right? You shouldn't be following the actual numbering on the games. Like, I view, like, maybe, Birth by Sleep, I consider Kingdom Hearts 3 already, because that Birth by Sleep is a full-on Kingdom Hearts game, right? There's a full story in it. I think there are two games that I would consider milk factories. First one is Coded, Kingdom Hearts Coded. Added nothing to the story, and then the most recent one.
Cross Union. Cross.
Yeah, actually, yeah, you're right. I forgot about that one. I completely forgot about Cross Union because I don't even.
Shark Road. Isn't that one?
Alright, so all the mobile games are just milk factories in general, right? If the mobile game comes from a fan, it's a milk factory because it's a gacha game, right? That doesn't feel okay. I'm sorry, I forgot about those. But the second game I was talking about was Melody of Memories, which I think is also a milk factory too. But
I thought you were gonna.
But it's a pleasant milk. It's a pleasant milk drink. I would drink it.
But the third one that some people might consider milk, but I definitely do not because it's my favorite game, is 358, because it doesn't really add much into the story, but I think it was very, very well written anyway. That if you call that a milking game, then I really question I believe that you don't care about the about the narrative in your games at all. So I think among all the other games, they advance the story in some way. And I think the problem with Recoded and the Memory of Melody. So Recoded basically was just a reskin. You just took old stuff and you hashed it all together, and then you put out a new game. You basically Frankenstein it. You put out a game. People had to buy it. Memory, I consider a milking game, even though you said it's pleasant milk. It's because, Nomura.
The gameplays.
But because Nomura had to fondle us. And added 20 minutes of unique cutscenes for the game. So yeah.
So I feel like for a milking factory, if you're delaying a story to get from point A to point B, I feel like that's a pretty good definition of milking a franchise. If it takes you 18 years or whatever, however so long, it feels so long, to get from Kingdom Hearts 2 to 3.
I told you can't. But like I said, Kingdom Hearts 3 is not actually Kingdom Hearts 3. It's only Kingdom Hearts 3 because they were waiting for Yutani Hikaru to come out of retirement so that she can make a new song. Like it should be called Kingdom Hearts, not Kingdom Hearts 1, Kingdom Hearts 2. It should be Yutani Hikaru Song 1, Yutani Hikaru Song 2, and Yutani Hikaru Song 3. That's all it is. Come on, man.
Look,
But then
I
after you play
this.
2, you say, I want to play 3. And 3 never comes. You're like, okay, you get this big ass number, 358 divided by 226. It's like, okay, that's almost 3, but it's not. Okay, I guess I'll let it slide. And you get another game called Birth by Sleep in the Rainbow.
No, and then you get 3D. You do get Kingdom Hearts 3. It's just called Kingdom Hearts 3D.
So, I'm a little upset, and I feel like
Don't fall for the marketing, dude.
I'm gonna put my foot down here and say that after Kingdom Hearts 2, after Birth by Sleep, I think the milk train got started pretty hard when Nomura realized he wasn't gonna be able to get 3 out anytime soon. So instead, he decided to pursue all the other avenues he could to make games. And oh boy, did! I think something you forgot to mention, Kagros. A game. The thing I think exemplifies milk for the Kingdom Hearts series that people probably liked. It was sweet milk, but it was still milk. Kingdom Hearts 2.8.
Oh yeah? Oh yeah?
0.2 with the 0.2 attached to it. The whole Aqua story, and I'm a goddamn Aqua lover. I love that shit. But that was the definition of milk. Okay, you bought this stupid collection or whatever just to get this extra little snippet. That was like a 2-year preview for Kingdom Hearts.
All right.
You're right.
You're right. Counterpoint. That point 2 was actually included in the. Did they have a final mix for Birth by Sleep? Yes, it was included in the Japanese final mix. That stuff was included in final mix. So the Japanese players already had access to it. And okay, I can't believe we forgot to mention this. Final mixes are definitely milk factories.
Of course, you already bought the game once. Why are you buying it again for more content that you're going to put in the first time? But you're going to buy it. You're going to get milk
for that cutscene, the final cutscene.
Just for that secret boss.
Yeah, just for the secret boss. Yes. So I think in that regard, it is a milk factory. That is another milk factory because you're making your customers buy the game twice.
Like that 0.2, in my opinion, from what I played of Dream Drop Dive. No, I'm sorry, Kagros, but that's milk. That's milking.
What?
Introducing the time travel bullshit. Like,
what?
leading us around in circles, that's milking. They are milking us.
Not dude, you need to understand the perspective of the two characters. You have to see.
We didn't need it. We didn't need it.
Yes, we did.
Straight to 3. We could have just got to 3.
No, we needed to understand the how they're able to travel through time and all that that finagling.
There shouldn't have been time travel in my Kingdom Hearts.
So
I don't want it in my Kingdom Hearts.
This is what happens when you're trying to repackage almost spoiled milk into new milk. And Kagros, you're just slurping it up. You're like, this tastes good. What is this now? Is this Kingdom Hearts anymore?
At the end of the day, we just have to accept it. This is what they've laid out for us. This is the feast of Kingdom Hearts. You have to consume all of this. Enjoy. Remaking Chain of Memories for the PS2 seemed cool until you played it. You realize it wasn't actually that fun.
I had fun playing it in 1.5. I'm just saying. I got to play as Riku.
I did not. Playing Chain of Memories in 3D
cool.
is really odd. doing the whole card thing. It was fine on the Game Boy in 2D art style. Not bueno in 3D. In my opinion, should have just remade it as a regular Kingdom Hearts game.
Okay, but when it comes down to it, Kingdom Hearts is definitely a milk factory. I'm not arguing that point there. Someone just has to play the role as a fanboy and defend all of Square Enix's decisions. And for me, Final Mixes. Thank goodness we don't have really those. But I did buy the Remind DLC was basically the Final Mix. But I mean, and then one argument too is that just because a company makes a Final Mix doesn't make them bad. I mean, just look at our favorite game, right? Persona 5 Royal. Persona 5 Royal it's a Final Mix, right? It's a director's cut, right? It's a director's cut game, but I think the difference between Persona and Kingdom Hearts, like Persona, we had Persona 3 The Answer, and then Persona 4 Golden, and then Persona 5 Royal, right? As their Final Mixes. But especially in Persona 4 and Persona 5, it added a significant amount of story to the game. Is it worth $60? I actually wouldn't say I wouldn't say it was, but but Persona 5 Royal, Persona 5 Royal was kind of different though. I think that go ahead.
I was gonna say the big counterpoint there is that the Persona games are all self-contained. Yes, they have hints to each other being kind of connected. There's little Easter eggs you can find. They're like, oh yeah, this is connected. These Final Mixes are all self-contained together. You aren't buying Persona 3, playing through it, and then being like, what happens next? And having to wait for Persona 4 and then Persona 5, like Kingdom Hearts. It's you get Persona 3, you play through it. A year later, there's Persona 3 Fez. You're like, oh wow, this is pretty interesting. I'll buy it again so I can play it again because I enjoyed it to get a little extra. And that's it. There is a finish. Kingdom Hearts does not have a finish. Kingdom Hearts keeps leading you on.
So counterpoint there. For Persona 4, I would have been very disappointed had I bought Persona 4 Vanilla and then being forced to buy Persona 4 Golden. I think Persona 5 is a unique case because there's a lot on your second playthrough Persona 5 that were that they change a little bit and then you notice it, right? And I think the big point of Persona 5 Royal is that there's a certain, no spoilers, there's a certain character whose our view of that character changed drastically, right? And I think for that reason, Persona 5 Royal was worth it because you would not have felt that emotion had you just played Persona 5 Royal. So Tonk is slowly working her way through Persona 5 Royal. I do not believe that she will feel the way that we felt about this character because she has not gone held on to these strong feelings for this character for 2 years, only to have it change when they play when she plays Persona 5 Royal, right? So I think that's a little different. So Persona 5 Royal is the right kind of final mix, but Persona 3 and Persona 4, I do not believe that you would have the same. I think the Persona is the only final mix that is worth the full $60. That is worth the full price of the game. The Persona 3, Persona 4.
I think for its time, I think for Atlas, for the Persona series, I think their final mix is their attention to making that final mix is a lot better than Kingdom Hearts. In my opinion.
Yeah. Yes.
And I think that if you were to play Persona 3 and Fez at that time when it was released, it would have been a lot worth it. And the same goes for Persona 4 and for Persona 5. And I'm sure we'll make the same comment when Persona 6 comes out and we're like, oh, Persona 5 is trash. Shigeru Meguro is not on it anymore. The new composer is fantastic.
Yeah. So
I think the caveats for Persona 3, the Western release, if I remember correctly, was only Fez. We didn't get Persona 3 Vanilla. It was just Fez.
Oh, okay.
We already got the upgrade. We got the upgrade edition as our base. And then with Persona 4.
Oh no, wait. So Persona 3 Fez, is that the one on the PSP? Because the PSP had its own.
No. Fez. No. Fez is the one I played. I played on your PlayStation.
Fez is the original PS2 release, which I'm pretty sure if I read the Wikipedia right, we got Fez in the West after it already came out in Japan. Japan got Persona 3 Vanilla, then they had Fez, and then they brought Fez to the US and Western countries. So we already got the upgraded version from the get-go.
And then they had like another final mix of Persona 3 on the PSP. Just
the P3P, I believe, yeah. And that had the FemMC, but they changed a bunch of stuff for that version.
Yes,
too.
I think that's a new game. The P3P is basically a new game because you play as a Fem. If you play the FemMC.
Yeah, you get a whole different. Like the story is kind of the same, but like you have different interactions with characters. You have a different room attendant, and you can control all your characters. Persona 4 Vanilla came out, and then didn't it take like 4 years before Persona 4 Golden came out on Vita? Like it was 2008 for Persona 4 Vanilla, and 2012 for Golden on Vita.
Probably. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Like,
yes, you're right. It is 4 years. It was 4 years. Yes, that's correct.
Like 4 years waiting. Like no one knew it was gonna come, so you bought Vanilla and enjoyed it, and then 4 years later, like you hear a re-release is coming out on the Vita. It has a bunch of new stuff. Like that's probably worth picking up again. And a Vita game would have been cheaper too. It would have been like $40, I think.
Huh.
So
actually, I thought Royal was 2 years. It was actually a 3 year difference.
Yeah, like
2017.
A lot of people were complaining. Yeah, because Royal was so quick compared to the other two. So you know, it's in comparison to Kingdom Hearts, where like Kingdom Hearts 1 came out, and then what was it, a year and a half later, Final Mix came out, but only in Japan. We wouldn't get it in America for like years because they didn't think it would work to sell it again in America.
Yeah, it wouldn't.
Tonk asked, should I play Persona 5 normal first?
No. It won't be worth it.
At this point, Tonk, no. Just play Royal.
Yeah.
Because all the improvements in Royal basically make 5 Vanilla obsolete.
Yeah.
So, Tonk, I'm going to disagree with these fellas only if you're a degenerate who has 400 plus hours of time to play games and you end up loving Persona 5 so much that you want to run it back. That's when you play Royal.
Oh my goodness.
You're talking to the guy who played Persona 5 Vanilla 5 times in a row, has a save file that's like 450 hours. Like, I played it a lot. I really enjoyed it. But Royal fixes a lot of problems that Vanilla had. And you can still get it's still... You're not going to lose out playing Royal instead of Vanilla. Except for the trophies. If you're a trophy hunter, yeah, sure, play Vanilla to get all the trophies. You get the platinum for it, and then go to Royal.
No, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Just go straight to Royal and get the free platinum trophy. Just get the free...
I'm just joking, Tonk. I'm just joking, Tonk. Just play Royal. You're not missing out.
Yeah, because it takes time to ferment. You know, if you want to feel the way that we do, you need to wait. You need to play Vanilla, and then you gotta wait some amount of time to let your feelings of the game ferment, and then you would have to go back and play. But you know, you're having trouble playing through Royal already. You know, you love Danganronpa a lot more, so I don't think you should play. You should play Vanilla. You should just play Royal and then get sucked into Persona, so that you'll be hyped for Persona 6 when it comes out. So
get her to play Golden.
No, don't touch Golden. Oh my gosh.
Bonds. No. You touch it. You touch it.
Touch it. You touch it.
You touch it.
Yeah.
For the
Go
bonds.
Go
bonds.
So would you guys consider Persona a milk factory? Actually, let's back it up. Just as a closing remark, would you consider the Shin Megami Tensei franchise a milk factory? Because Persona is under the umbrella of it's a spin-off off the Shin Megami Tensei series. Would you guys consider that a milk factory, or do we not know enough about it? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I can't speak to Shin Megami Tensei, but for Persona 5, for Persona series, I'm pretty sure they could have been looked at as a milk factory before, especially with P3.
Mm-hmm.
But I think ever since then, I think they're making all the right choices.
Don't forget they have spin-off games too. All those dancing, arena.
Yeah, they have the dancing and the fighting games. I mean, those are kind of milk, in my opinion. Like, those were straight up. The later dancing games were milk. The fighting games, I'll give a pass, kind of. They were unique for the time, but now they're kind of like meh. For Shin Megami Tensei, I don't have too much experience with the series, but I have spent like an entire afternoon reading the Wikipedia for it, and like the number of games in that series.
It's a lot.
Especially the amount that came out in Japan, never saw a Western release. Like, Shin Megami Tensei If, and all these weird names and stuff. Like, it definitely got milked, I think, back in the day when it was very popular in Japan. I don't think it's milked anymore. I think if anything, it's like the cow's about ready to burst. It needs to be milked. it needs to be taken care of.
SMT5.
Like,
Come on,
the poor cow is like, please.
Atlas rep, please. Atlas rep. Come on. Hit us with some early review comments. I need it.
So
It desperately needs to be milked because like Shin Megami Tensei, like what was it, 3 or Nocturnal? Like we're getting Nocturnal remake, which is not doing too much.
Nocturne. Yeah.
And then like we're getting 5. Like that's it.
Yeah.
There should be more of a series, but no, it's just sort of being left there to sort of ferment.
So
Persona.
Counterpoint, I do think that we didn't talk about it this episode. I think we should have talked about it. It's Pokemon, but I feel like Shin Megami Tensei is like the adult version of Pokemon.
I can see that.
I think it's the adult version of Pokemon, and I do think it's better because they actually try to innovate their games. Whenever they do spin-offs, right, they do try to innovate their... Just look at Persona, right? They've been innovating, they've been changing, they've adapted so much to the modern times. I do think that they take more risks than Pokemon does.
And their stories are better too.
Yeah. So while maybe for Shin Megami Tensei, especially back in the day, may have been a milk factory, I do think that the outcome of it is actually good because they actually try to innovate. They actually try to do new things. And and that I think that should be our closing remark here. I think just because something is a milk factory doesn't mean it's bad, right? It doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. So I just want to make that distinction here. Like we can complain about milking, but in order to make a milk factory, you need a cow first, right? If you don't have a cow, you can't milk it, right? So milk factories are born out of successful franchises. So just because they're milking it,
and you need people to drink the milk.
Yes,
there are plenty of people drinking the milk.
Yes. All right. Any other remarks from you guys?
I just say don't over milk your franchises, please. I don't know. Maybe I'm a Persona fanboy, but I feel like
we all are, dude.
Appropriately, in my opinion. Whereas something like
Kingdom Hearts.
I don't know
what. Kingdom Hearts, yeah.
No, I'm not gonna pick on Kingdom Hearts anymore.
No. The biggest thing, the thing we didn't touch on because I think none of us are really very familiar with it, but EA and their milking of sports games.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That could be a whole entire other video if we ever wanted to get into it, but I don't think any of us really care.
I think we touched upon EA and sports games, on one of our earlier episodes about the monetization.
That is some egregious milking. Like, that's selling rotten milk year after year, and some poor slob keeps buying it because they're like, oh, this is the new version. This is the best one. There's all the new updated rosters. I'm like, dude, in the bleachers, in the stadium, still has the old title from last year's game. They didn't even bother updating it. It's EA FIFA 2019, even though you just bought 2020. Like, it's bad when game reviewers can just copy-paste their review from last year for this version. Nothing changed. That's some BS right there. Like, we can complain about Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy all we want. At least we're getting quality games, kinda. FIFA? You ain't getting shit. And you paying for it every year just because that's the only game you play, and that's just sad. Sad.
All right, gentlemen. Well, I guess we'll leave it at that. So once again,
salty.
we'll leave it on a little salty note. But anyways, if you're watching us live on Twitch, we are the Dumpstick Adventurers on Twitch. Please, if you haven't followed us already, please give us a follow. We could, even though we don't get money from it, it's just nice to see the number go up. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, please also consider subscribing to our channel. Just like we will never monetize any of our videos, so we're not asking for money here. Just make the number go up. The bigger the number, the larger the number. We like big numbers.
We get
yes.
review copies.
Yeah, yes. We just want review copies, guys, so that we can give you guys an honest opinion on the game. We can't be bought. We can't be bought. Maybe IDK can be bought by like titties, but
You have to give me waifus for good reviews.
Yeah.
If there's no waifus, negative review.
Alright, anyways, once again, viewers, thank you. Adventurers, thank you for watching us. We do appreciate all your support. And I guess we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.